All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today to learn a little bit about providing rich and descriptive feedback in Brightspace. My name is Jessica, and I'm a customer success specialist here at D2L. I've got my Twitter handle up there if you'd like to give me a follow. I usually post information around upcoming events or webinars or tips and tricks for using Brightspace. Couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, I'll be referencing all customers today when I'm using the term district. So you might call this your board or division or even something else. But again, just for this webinar series, we'll be using the term district. Second, all commenting and Q&A have been disabled for this webinar today, but if you do have questions, we do have an avenue for you. I'd recommend contacting your Brightspace administrator at your district. If you're unsure who that is, you can email us at k12ont@d2l.com, and we can put you in touch with the right person or provide you the information of who you should contact at your district. Third, we will be emailing you out at the end of this week all of the recordings from the webinars from this week. So if you just joined one of the webinars, you get a little bit of bonus because you'll get all of them. Or if you have joined all of them, then you'll have them all the recording for all of them, as well as the slide decks. So you can expect that email to come out early next week. If you can't wait that long and you want to refer back to the slides that we're using today or view this recording again, you are welcome to visit the Educator webinar site where we've got all of the slide decks and recordings posted. So the posting will go up the next business day after the webinar. So you can expect to see this one on the website tomorrow. And finally, this webinar is aimed at districts who have access to Brightspace already. So if you don't have access to Brightspace, you're certainly welcome to stick around and learn a little bit about how it works. But if you are interested in learning a little bit more about how your district might acquire it, you're welcome to email k12ont@d2l.com. So that same email address that I shared with you. All right, so a little bit on our agenda today. We'll be talking about current state. So kind of just referencing, I think the reason why a lot of us are here today, or the majority of us are here today, which is trying to get up to speed on moving learning to an online platform. Shifting to remote teaching or learning at home, whatever your district might be calling it. Then I'll go into a little bit around Brightspace. So what is it? So if you're joining us for the first time and you're unsure, it'll be a nice little overview of what it is. And if you have been joining us all week, it'll be a little bit of a refresher for you. And then we'll get into kind of the special content for this webinar today, which is around assessing an assignment and all the different types of feedback that you can provide in an assignment, as well as assessing a quiz and all the different places you can view how students performed on a quiz and how you can provide feedback in a quiz. This kind of complements or builds on the webinar that was delivered yesterday by my colleague. She showed us how to set up an assignment and set up a quiz. So if you missed that one and you need to get some learning done on that, you're welcome to visit the recording for that one on that educator website as well. And then finally, I'll leave you with some resources that you can take away. So just one more reminder here, an email will be sent out early next week with all of the recordings and slide decks to these webinars. So you will have access. You don't need to worry about taking notes or anything today. You'll have access to, again, this recording and the slide deck. So first and foremost, like I said, I did want to kind of recognize, I think, the reason that we're all here today, which is, again, a lot of educators all across the globe are working very quickly to try to navigate this new world of learning where teachers are teaching from home remotely and students are learning at home as well. So this is certainly a global phenomenon, and D2L is working really hard to support schools and teachers really all over the world. So as we hear more about how teachers are navigating this new world, we'll share more so that you can benefit from the lessons and stories of others. And so we're at D2L, we've been delivering different webinars, some of them on specifically on districts and how they've worked to move to remote learning. So again, we'll continue to share everything that we hear from teachers all over the world. So before I jump into the assessment kind of demo of Brightspace, I just want to take a moment to recognize some of the considerations that we might want to think about as we are moving to remote learning. So this whole remote learning or online learning can certainly be very valuable in a time like this, but there are certain things to take into consideration, and I want to take a moment to kind of recognize those as these are sort of the biggest things that we've been hearing from teachers in terms of things that we need to think about when we're moving to online education. So the first thing is content and resources. So whether you're starting from scratch or you have experience teaching online in the past, just being able to pull together and share resources and content is going to be really important in these super fast changing, moving times. So having a platform where you can pull all of these different resources together is very beneficial. That kind of one-stop shop where parents and students know where they need to go to get access to all of the resources that you're using. I know in the last couple of weeks, I've seen a ton of different resources come out. And so having a platform to bring that all together into a logical flow is very beneficial, again, for students and parents. And of course, Brightspace is a great place to do that. Devices and internet access. So online learning is a valuable resource in times like these for sure, but as educators, we do need to consider our students who maybe don't have internet and devices. So for those learners who have older devices or computers at home, we might want to kind of think about not focusing or over focusing on apps that rely on having the newest operating systems. So, you know, apps will only support a certain number of versions back of operating systems. And so you just want to be aware of that because some students with older devices might not be able to download the app that you might be using. The good thing about Brightspace, though, is that it uses a responsive web design. So no matter if the learner is using a super old device, as long as they have a web browser, they will be able to access Brightspace. So if they have an iPad, a phone that has a web browser, a computer, as long as they have a web browser, they can access Brightspace, which is great. And then also when we're thinking about people who maybe don't have access to internet, it's really amazing some of the things that we've been seeing all over the globe. We're seeing communities pull together in this kind of time of trouble, with some areas providing free devices and giving out devices, hotspots, or even internet. Support at home. So parents are, of course, in a new world as well, with many of them balancing work, either working from home or they're still going to their places of employment, in addition to supporting their students or their children. So make sure you're kind of considering how much support parents can provide and choose online tools that can communicate with them in one easy place. And Brightspace can certainly fit that need as well, as there's kind of multiple places where you can be communicating information that parents can also view. Accessibility and equity. So as you look for online tools, you'll want to consider whether they meet the needs of all students. So tools like Brightspace that are WCAG compliant mean they can be used with screen readers and other sort of assistive technology. So just kind of an important thing to consider if you do have students using assistive technology, that WCAG compliance is important. And then security, privacy, and personal information. If you're asking students to use online tools, it's important to make sure their data is protected. So with tools like Brightspace, it has a license, right? Brightspace is licensed with your district and have been properly vetted, and therefore can offer that bit of reassurance that the data and privacy of the students is protected. One of the things that I'd like to point out with D2L is that D2L never owns student or teacher content. So that includes your lesson plans, your resources that you're uploading. That is not the property of D2L. So just want to make sure that's clear. And then finally, synchronous versus asynchronous learning. So synchronous meaning, you know, all the students are together doing something at the same time. And by together, I mean, you know, on some sort of live video conferencing tool. And perhaps you're delivering a lesson all at the same time. And then asynchronous being the opposite of that, where students don't need to be logged on at a particular time. They can just go and view the resources or maybe a pre-recorded video of you to be able to get the lesson. And so it's just important to keep in mind that some households only have one device that children are sharing. So having a lesson plan that also ensures that you're allowing for asynchronous learning, physical activity breaks, and household schedules is important as well. So today we're going to focus on technology, but know that we're also keeping an eye on the educational resources out there that will also support you in moving to learning from home. And so we've just kind of picked out some of our favorites that we've seen pop up over the last couple weeks. These include resources from districts, universities, and education companies that are sharing things out to help both educators and students with learning from home. And so those links, you can click on those as soon as you have access to those slides. So the last thing I'll mention is some terminology, just to make sure everybody's clear on some nomenclature. So first is D2L is our company, and so often that sometimes gets confused with Brightspace, which is our product. So much like Apple makes the iPhone, the company D2L makes the product Brightspace. And Brightspace is the learning platform that students and teachers can log into to do their learning from home. Your district or school might call it something different. Some districts kind of brand it with a different name. It could be something like in Ontario, we see the VLE or My Class, E-Class, Hub. There's a ton of different names that different districts and school boards use to brand with Brightspace. And then finally, there's also our Brightspace community. And so that is our online community where users of Brightspace can come together and post questions. We post blog articles there. Lots of different resources there, including a ton of resources on COVID-19 as well. So if you go to community.brightspace.com and become a member, you can join the conversation. All right, so that takes care of our current state and what is Brightspace. And now I kind of want to get into the actual demo of looking at some rich and descriptive feedback and how we can provide that for our students in Brightspace. So here I am in my, my Learn From Home classroom, and the first thing I'm going to do is access the assignment that my colleague Val created yesterday. This was a paper bag princess summary that she then posted to the activity feed. This is the activity feed widget, and she pinned it to the top. So it's the first thing students see. And so as she pointed out yesterday, students, when they look at this, they'll see a blue button here that says submit, and they'll be able to submit their assignment. But as I'm the teacher of the class, I see how many students of the total number of students in my class have submitted to this. So I see 1 out of my 3 students have submitted to it. And I can use that button to go directly into the assignment. It's kind of a shortcut there. And so once I'm here, I see that student 1 here and I see their submission. And so if I click on that, I can go ahead and go in. And this assignment was a little bit of a lower stakes assignment. So yesterday when we set it up, we attached a rubric to it, but this is actually a text-based rubric, so or a no-score rubric. It doesn't have any points associated to it. It's just text. The other thing about this assignment is that it's not, it doesn't have a score out of. So the only type of feedback that I'm giving to my students for this is going to be formative feedback. So in the assignment, in this assignment kind of evaluation pane is where I can do all my evaluating. So again, this whole pane on the right side is where all of the evaluation components live. And then on the left side here is where the assignment appears. Now in this particular assignment, we had the student upload a video of themselves. So if I look at the assignment information that's tucked away under here, they had to do a 1 to 2 minute video summary of the story. And so what I did was we created this assignment as text file or a text-based assignment rather than a file submission, meaning that we want the students to have access to the HTML editor to submit their assignment. We don't want them to upload a Word doc or a Google Doc. We want them to be able to either just type directly into the HTML editor or add a video note. And just so you can see what the HTML editor looks like, I actually have one here that I as the teacher have access to right here. But this is essentially the same box that they would see with this type of assignment. And what happens is the student, when they submit their assignment, they can use the insert stuff option that my colleague Val explained yesterday to upload a video of themselves. So if you are curious what that looks like, feel free to check out her webinar from yesterday. So as I said, my student, which is me, but my student has uploaded a video of themselves, and I can watch that video. I can make it full screen and you know, watch that whole summary that they've created. And then I'm ready to give some feedback. So as I said, this one's a pretty simple one. It's got a rubric attached to it, but it's text only. So let's open that up. And it's just a simple 2-point rubric, just to sort of got it and not yet situation. And so I can click on the levels that that the student demonstrated, and then give them kind of an overall rating. The student did really well, so I'm going to give them got it on all of them. And then you'll notice there's this add feedback area. So for each individual criteria, if I wanted, I could add some additional details here or additional comments. I'm going to close that though. I'm going to leave those blank, and you'll see level achieved is got it. So the student will see that rubric filled out just like that with the highlighted pieces and any additional feedback. That's when grading with a rubric. Now I also have the option to provide some additional feedback that's separate from the rubric if I wanted. So down in here, this is a HTML editor, so I can you know, type some feedback in here. But the other thing that I love about this is, as I pointed out with the student, when I have access to the HTML editor, I can add a video note. And I love the idea of giving video feedback for students, especially in times like this when, or in this situation, when students probably miss you, right? And it's nice to see, nice for them to see your face and kind of hear you talking about their assignment. And so to access that video note, if you click on this very aptly named Insert Stuff button, that will open up a whole list of different things that you can insert into this feedback area. One that I like to point out is YouTube. So if their video submission reminded me of a YouTube video that I want them to watch, or maybe it's a YouTube video on using transition words or something like that that I want them to watch as part of their feedback, I can search for a YouTube video directly in this dialog and add it in. But I'm here because I wanted to show you the video note option. So right here, I can click on video note and it'll access my camera. You may need to provide some authorization. So I might ask you to access the microphone, but you just click on new recording and then it will begin recording, and you can give your feedback and then stop recording. And I'll add that in. So once it does that, I'm going to close that for now though, just so we don't need to wait for it to load. But by the way, once it does load, you can add subtitles, and you add a little title to it as well. So a great little accessibility feature there is that subtitle, where it'll automatically subtitle your video, which is great. The other thing you can do is add images to your feedback if that makes sense for your case, as well as some quick links. And so if I click on Insert Quick Link, I love this option as well, because if you imagine that I had some content, some resources in the content area of my course or the lessons area of my course, I can link directly to that content. So I could say, okay, this is a great job, but you know, you missed perhaps you need to review the main idea, or how to determine the main idea of a story. So I could go to content and go to my reading and writing, and if I had some resources on there's a message from kid president, maybe I want them to watch that, and that inserts the link. But as I said, in this situation, it might be something like a resource on finding the main idea. And then as part of their feedback, it's a link right to that. All they have to do is click on it, and then that opens up that resource, which is great. That's a lot more than what you could do if you were just writing feedback on a piece of paper, which is amazing. And then down below that, you can also add a file, record audio here. Some people prefer to start with recording audio, as some people can get camera shy and want to start with just recording their voice and then kind of graduate to video note if that's scary for you in the beginning. So that's another option as well. So I'm going to end there for this assignment. I can save this draft if I'm one of those people that likes to go through all my students' work before publishing, or I could just publish right away. And then when I publish, that means that the student will be able to see that feedback now. So they'll get a little notification up in their Brightspace notification bar and be able to see the rubric, the feedback, and everything that I left there. All right, so that was kind of a slightly lower stakes assignment, and I'm going to go back to my assignment list here. And I'm going to go to this creative writing prompt. This one was a little higher stakes. And in this one, they had to write a short story. And so I'm going to go right into the assignment here. And in this example, they uploaded a PDF, but it doesn't have to be necessarily a PDF format, right? They can upload a Word doc. If you have the full Google Apps integration, they can also pull directly from their Google Drive and submit a Google Drive file as well. So lots of different options there. PowerPoint, Excel, basically any file type, common file type is going to be accepted here. So here I see their short story, and then again this navigation window on the right, or navigation pane on the right here, that I can use to assess. So I'm going to collapse. This was the assignment information and what they had to do. I'm going to collapse that and scroll down to some of the options I have here. So this one, if I click into this writing rubric, this rubric actually has some points associated with it. So you see I've actually previously gone through and clicked on these, but if I click through them again, you'll notice that this one actually has some pre-created canned sort of feedback. And my colleague showed us yesterday how to do that. It basically involves writing some initial text. You'll see a field when you create the rubric called initial feedback. And that's kind of like if you, for the exceeding level, for example, you always give very similar feedback to students, you can type it in there so it'll automatically appear when you click that level. And so you can see here, it saves me from having to type it. And then of course I can always, go in and tweak this for a particular student if I need to. And so I'll just click through, total 13 out of 15. It gives me my overall level, which I can always override myself and hit close. That's the rubric. And then down below that, you'll notice that it, when I grade with the rubric, now the rubric was out of 15, but I did have a score out of for this assignment. The overall score of this assignment was out of 25. And so it is the rubric score doesn't match up with the assignment score, but that's okay. The system will automatically convert it for you. So 13 out of 15 is the same as 21.6 out of 25. But you can always override that if you need to as well, depending on your grading. And then down below that, you can see that I've added some feedback in here already, but this is the same thing that we just saw. So that feedback area with video note, messages, or links back to other content, YouTube videos, all that's an option. The one thing that I forgot to point out on this side that you might do before you're doing all this scoring is kind of course, reading the assignment and maybe doing some markup on it. So I can hit the plus sign here, make this a little bigger. I can actually even go full screen if I want to really immerse myself in this. And then I can use these annotation tools to mark it up. So there's things like underlining, there's things like adding little notes at certain points. There's a highlight tool, there's all sorts of symbols that you can add. There's lots of different tools here that you can use to mark up the assignment. And then what's great is the student will get a marked up version of that, so they'll see all this markup, and they can print that out if they want with the markup. It'll be available to them whenever they need it. All right, so I'm gonna save this one. And that's my higher stakes one, which again, once I save it or publish it, it will now be visible to the student. Well, they'll see all those marked up annotations, they'll see the rubric, they'll see the score, the feedback, everything that you put there. All right, so the last thing I want to show you is going to move into the quiz tool. So the quiz tool, if I jump in here, yesterday, Val showed us how to set up a quiz, and I want to show you now how to review those results and give some feedback on it. So I've got this parts of speech quiz here, and it's a very simple 2-question quiz. You know, when you think about quizzes, it doesn't have to be like this big long exam, especially in elementary. It could just be like a one-question quiz or a 2-question quiz, just as either a diagnostic or to confirm understanding. And these quizzes can be multiple choice, true, false, matching, ordering. There's about 11 or so different question types that are available. So lots of different options there. One of the options, so everything can be automatically graded by the system, which is great. The only option that can't is the written response question. And that's for kind of longer written response questions where you'd have to, of course, read the question or read the answer and provide some feedback on it. So this question or this quiz here in this example is just a 2-question quiz, and they're both multiple choice. So now that the students have taken the quiz, I want to go in and see how they did on it. And so the first place I want to take you to is statistics, which is just kind of an overview of how everyone did on the quiz. And for this, there's a bunch of different tabs here, but we're going to stick to just this one here, as this is kind of a beginner session today. And this shows the score distribution. So I can see 2 students in the class got 100%, and 1 student got 50% on it. And if I scroll down, I can see the distribution or the score for each student very quickly. So it just kind of visually, in both cases, really quickly shows me how the students did on the quiz. And I can really quickly see, oh, learner 2 had a bit of trouble. And maybe I want to go in and look at their attempt and see how they did. And to do that, I'm going to go back to the Manage Quizzes area. And I'm going to click on that drop down again, and instead of statistics, I'm going to go to grade. And down below here, now that I see grade, I can see each student in my class. So this is one student, this is a student, and this is a student. And they've each attempted this one time. So you can have quizzes with multiple attempts. In this case, they've just tried the quiz once, and I can see their grade all here. And so now, if we remember, we said that learner 2 had some trouble, right? They got 50%. So we're going to go right into their attempt and see what they got wrong. So I see their final score here that I can always override if I need to. And here I can see that they got this, this parts of what is an adjective wrong, which the following is an adjective. And I'm just looking at this. Run isn't an adjective either. So I might need to switch my quiz setup because run is indicated as the correct answer. But of course, we need happy to be the adjective. But in any case, tree is certainly not an adjective anyway. So what I could do is give the students some feedback on this individual question if I want. So this area here, expand question feedback, I can type some feedback in here. Again, it's that HTML editor, so all those features are available. Or if it was a longer quiz and I just wanted to give some overall feedback to that student, I could use this area up here, which is just overall feedback on the entire quiz. All right. So if we go back to our agenda today, that was everything I wanted to show you with assessing an assignment and assessing a quiz. And the last thing I want to leave you with some resources. So this list here will help you as an educator kind of stay current with COVID-19 planning and support, as well as provide you with some basic resources that should help get you started. And like I mentioned at the start, if your district is not using Brightspace, then please email k12ont@d2l.com. We'll have lots more webinars on the go. That kind of completes our series for this week, but please check back at our Twitter handle or at d2l.com/k12/educator webinars for new webinars. And then finally, I've got this kind of chart here that has links to a ton of different videos for getting started. And these are really helpful if you want to dive a little deeper in some tools. All right, so that's our entire list checked off today. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time here. I know this is a very stressful time as we all kind of plan how to move forward, but I do really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So one last reminder that we'll be sending an email next week with all recordings and slide decks. So be sure to check your junk folder for that as well. So thanks again, everyone. Stay safe and be well. Have a great day.